Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, as everyone who's been following me on my series know, that my very first blog that I ever made was several of the original Friday the 13th movies, which were classic slasher films. And of course, my third episode was the 2013 Carrie film, which was the very first horror movie that I've ever seen in theaters on my own. However, neither of these were the very first R-rated horror film that I've ever watched per se. If you don't know what I mean, during my high school age, back during the mid to late 2000s, I came across an interesting, relatable, thought-provoking, and insane movie on Netflix, which involved high school outcasts, witchcraft, and revenge. And for many years now, I've been hoping to blog it on my series, but I sadly haven't found the proper time to do it until now. So, let's get started. Released on October 23rd, 2005 at the New York City Horror Film Festival, the movie is Tamara. Now, on for the plot of the movie. Tamara Riley is a shy, lonely, but intelligent high school girl who dabbles in witchcraft, and she has a crush on her literature teacher, Mr. Bill Natoli. As an outcast, she frequently bears the brunt of her classmates' cruelty. One night, during the weekend, she is accidentally killed during a prank gone wrong at the Capri Motel. However, thanks to a magical spell, which required a blood sacrifice, Tamara returns from the grave as a sexy siren in order to enact revenge against the group, and she tries to take Bill from his beloved wife. So, my thoughts? Well, it's not exactly a great movie, but it is a worthy addition to the horror genre. Plus, there were some moments that were very relatable, while a few others were pretty cheesy. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just move on to Mustang notes. Now, there's not a lot of trivia that I can find regarding Tamara, other than the fact that the movie was directed by Jeremy Haft, who worked on Grizzly Mountain, 3 of the Just Dance games, and the Netflix series On My Block. The film was written by Jeffrey Reddick, best known for creating the Final Destination franchise. Also to mention, the movie was shot in Winnipeg in Manitoba, Canada, from September 24th through October 21st, 2004. After the movie was released at New York City's Horror Film Festival, it was released in selected theaters in the United States on February 3rd, 2006. Now, as I stated earlier, Tamara was the very first R-rated horror movie that I've ever watched. Heck, even the very first teen horror film that I've ever watched, period. And even though I was about 16 to 17 years old at the time, after renting it from Netflix halfway through my high school age and buying it on DVD, I made it a goal to watch as many horror films in order to conquer my fears. Anyway, to me, while the film quality isn't really that good due to it being a bit low budgeted, at least it's not as bad as the quality in the original Evil Dead movie. Also, this movie not only features dark witchcraft, but it also includes bullying, alcohol, drugs, scary imagery, freak dancing, and sexual innuendo. Also, there are a couple deaths that are very shocking and terrifying, one of which not being a very pleasant sight to witness, trust me. As for the story, well, it's okay. It's a little cliched at times due to it being very similar to Stephen King's Carrie, only without telekinesis, and I kind of get the feeling that the movie might have been an inspiration for Jennifer's Body. Also, I thought the final climax at the hospital was really heart-pounding, and it put me on the edge of my seat. And that's all I got from Mustang notes. So let's move on to the cast. The title character, Tamara Riley, is played by Jenna Dewan, whom was in the first Step Up movie and The Grudge 2. During the beginning of the film, Tamara is a shy teenage girl who is outcasted by most of her classmates and is mostly put down by her alcoholic father. Plus, Tamara has a crush on Bill Natoli, and she has a hobby with witchcraft. However, to me, like Carrie White, Tamara seems like the kind of person who I'd like to be friends with and stand up for, since we outcasts have to stick together. And I thought her reason to write an article in the school newspaper in order to improve her self-esteem was pretty smart. But her crush on Mr. Natoli is normally wrong, due to her being a teenager and him being a married adult. But when Tamara returns from the dead after a prank gone wrong, she becomes an attractive siren and she plots revenge against the group who humiliated and killed her. And she also tries to take Bill Natoli from his wife. In my eyes, Tamara, as an undead witch, is very bone-chilling, especially during scenes where she puts people in her powers by touching them across the face. So much so that she actually made it to my top 13 scariest monsters in a live-action film back in 2016. I mean, she torments an AV student named Roger with hallucinations of what it's like to be buried alive, with his history of cutting himself, and she manipulates him to kill himself with a razor blade while sending out a televised message to the entire school. She makes Sean rape Patrick so that he may know what those girls felt like. She even makes her father eat a glass beer bottle, and she makes Keisha experience such extreme hunger, and later she makes Keisha attack Chloe and Jesse. Plus, I think Jenna Dewan's acting as this outcasted teenager turned undead witch is so good that she actually makes a scene where she's having a conversation feel intense and suspenseful. Next we come to Bill Natoli, Tamara's English teacher, played by Matthew Marsden, who'd later act as Captain Graham in Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. To me, Bill seems like a very kind and caring person, like most high school teachers, and I like that he quotes lines from books for inspiration and motivation. And I like the part where he tells Tamara that if anyone bothers her, just come to him, and when he tells her that someday that she'll find her place in the world, which was eavesdropped by Keisha. However, I did feel sympathy for him and his wife, that they've been having infertility problems. However, Bill Natoli's true supportive role kicks in when he joins forces with Chloe and Jesse to solve the mystery behind Tamara's resurrection, and when he tries to protect his wife during the final climax. Plus, I thought the part where he sacrificed himself by throwing himself off the roof of the hospital with Tamara was really brave, but also sad at the same time. Next up is Chloe, played by Katie Stewart, whom has been in The Girl Next Door, Wild Things 2, and Fangs. Now, Chloe would have to be my favorite character in the movie due to her defending Tamara from Keisha in the girls' locker room, and I like the scene where she said that Tamara was a really cool girl. Plus, I think Chloe has a good sense of right and wrong, and I'm glad that Tamara was unable to control her because of her being kind and innocent, which makes Tamara realize that she truly has become a monster. These are Patrick and Sean, played by Gil Hacohen and Brian Clark. I find these two to be the typical high school athletes, and in my opinion, they are idiots, not just for being bullies to Tamara, but for also taking drugs and refusing to take a drug test. Also, their reason for pranking Tamara at the Capri Motel was payback for the newspaper article that she wrote, which in my opinion was a really stupid excuse for doing so. Besides, if they didn't refuse to take the drug test, then they wouldn't be kicked off their team. Also, I already mentioned the scene where Tamara mesmerizes them to rape each other due to their history of date raping teens at the school. But after receiving a phone call from Keisha, she sends Sean and Patrick to the Natoli residence to kill Allison. But thankfully, they get their comeuppance when Allison kills them both in self-defense. The rest of the cast includes Claudette Mink as Mrs. Allison Natoli, Bill's wife, Chad Faust as Chloe's boyfriend Jesse, Melissa Elias as Sean's girlfriend Keisha, and Mark Divney as Roger the Media Whiz. And now on to my final words. Overall, for my very first experience with an R-rated horror movie, Tamara was okay at best, but insane at worst. The story had some ups and downs due to some parts mostly resembling Carrie, while also being pretty cheesy. The title character was very sympathetic, but also very frightening. Her teacher, Bill Natoli, was a caring guy, and Chloe was a very sweet girl. The bullies were a couple idiots, and a couple other characters were not that likable or memorable in my opinion. Also, the movie's quality isn't really that great, and the soundtrack was headache-inducing. Still, I think this movie makes a worthy addition to the horror genre, and while I don't recommend this movie for anyone under the age of 17, I think some of you might want to check it out of curiosity. But if you don't like horror movies that involve witchcraft, freak dancing, drugs, innuendo, and alcohol, then this movie isn't for you. I give this movie a 65% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next blog, Mustang Power.